This is about a corrupt priest and corruption, and even his archbishop. His bishop is corrupt. Were you concerned at all about this? Oh, this is just another anti-Catholic priest movie. Is there another story that the movie is telling, in your opinion?
Yeah, I'm sure that people will initially may want to come away with that or look at that on the surface. I certainly don't see so. I mean, I'm a very committed Catholic, and I love the church, and everybody who worked on this, for the most part, was a committed Catholic who loves the church. I just think that if we're going to be talking about issues, you have to talk about them and deal with them honestly.
Hi, my name is Anne McElhenny.
And I'm Phelim McAleer.
And welcome to the Anne and Phelim Scoop.
Yes, so...
It's March, and Phelim is donning a one-armed bandit outfit today.
It was a bar.
And it was a bar, but...
that's the most exciting part of it.
Yeah, that's the best part.
No alcohol involved.
No.
Nothing involved, really. The world's most boring story that I won't even bore you with. It was like...
basically, Phelim got into an aggressive situation with a chair.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how exciting it is, yes. So I think we'll just leave it at that.
The chair was more interesting than I was, really.
Yes.
Yeah. So, our cat, Top Cat, has been behaving oddly.
Very oddly
and
yesterday.
This morning, I think I discovered the reason.
Yes.
When I woke up...
no. Are you going to put a photograph up of what you discovered in the
I'm going to show it to you now and...
decide whether or not it should be
shown.
Well,
actually, you tell me, Anne. You haven't seen this.
I haven't.
You tell me whether we should be...
sharing this picture of what he produced. Oh my God. So people who don't want to look at it, by the way, just look away now.
Yes, look away, but that is... Now, what I wonder was, where's the rest of the body?
Consumed, I presume. That's why they're still lying in bed.
Where's the tail?
Okay, Phelim, you have an interview then this morning, this week, with a filmmaker.
Yes.
Tell us that. Well, actually, you're going to tell us all about that later.
Yes, we're going to have interview with Paul Bois, a brilliant filmmaker and a Breitbart journalist. So we're going to talk about that later. And I've been asking some inconvenient questions again. I sit down for an hour-long interview with Patrisse Cullors of the Black Lives Matter movement, and we hear her apology and explanation for her giving her boyfriend and brother almost $2 million of charitably donated money. Just kidding. No, of course she wouldn't. I go along to an event to ask her these difficult questions, and you won't believe how it ended. Actually, you will believe how it ended. It ended badly. So watch me.
But you have to see that.
Yes, you have to see that's coming up later in the show. And what's happening in the humanities? Oh, the humanity. Yes. There's an article, where was it, in the New Yorker?
One of those short New Yorker articles.
9 million words. The end of the English major. Enrollment in the humanities is in free fall in colleges around the country. What happened? Well, we can tell you, but the New Yorker won't, so we'll talk about that later on. And, of course...
what the world really, really needs is a woke Peter Pan.
Yes.
We'll bring you news from the trailer that's just been released. And Hollywood, as an industry, uses more energy than just about any other industry, but they love to show you how much they really, really hate fossil fuels.
And speaking of crazy California, why wouldn't we? We're labouring at the moment, a lot of California is labouring under dozens of feet of snow.
Correct.
Thousands of people are stuck up mountains running.
People have died. People have died, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, another body was discovered this weekend.
They're running out of food. They're running out of medicine. They're stranded. They're in houses with no heat. And Gavin Newsom has gone full Ted Cruz. Actually, he's out Ted Cruz.
No, he's out Ted, in fairness, and we'll bring you the reasons why we can confidently say he's out Ted Cruz. It's quite a feat, actually. It's quite a feat.
So, and then we'll talk about the drought. Okay, and I meant to mention that, actually. Actually, let's the show, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. COVID madness goes on, but finally we're learning more and more and more and more. So, in Britain, which had one of the most severe lockdowns in the world, apart from Ireland, which is even more severe because they have to be better than Britain. It's a long story. The Irish inferiority complex to England. Matt Hancock, who was the British health minister, was writing his diaries, and he gave 100,000 of his WhatsApp messages to a journalist.
And those WhatsApp messages have been revealed and leaked,
and published.
And we're all getting to read and find out actually what he was really thinking.
Yes.
And this is Matt Hancock, for those of you who are not living in the UK and may not know about this health minister from the UK, former health minister.
Yes.
And the reason
why is he former?
Yes, the reason
tell us.
Well, the reason that he's a former health minister is that while he was urging the whole country to, lock down and adhere to these extreme, absolutely crazy lockdown measures, he was discovered on a security camera inside Number 10, am I right, Phil? Or in his office?
In the health department.
In the health department. Pinning his assistant up against the wall to give her some, what we used to say at school, what was it? Massage her tonsils was one of the phrases. Perhaps, with his tongue.
Perhaps he feared for her respiratory distress.
Anyway, you can imagine in the UK, the tabloids had quite the time with the name Hancock,
Oh,
and don't go there, Anne. Okay, I won't go there because this is this is a family show. But yeah, I mean, and it's actually with the release of these text messages, these WhatsApp text messages. I mean, it's actually. There's a couple of things. One is this thing of that they, you actually hear the inner workings of his mind. When he wasn't thinking about his assistant, he was thinking about how to terrorize. By the way, how to terrorize British people. I mean, one of the pieces, and this is reported. This is everywhere, by the way, right now. This is from the BBC film. This piece here, that he had a plan. He was planning to frighten the pants off everyone.
Oh, that's right.
He suggested to an aide that they frighten the pants off everyone about COVID. Messages published by the Sunday Telegraph show. It appears the former health secretary discussed when to reveal the existence of the Kent variant of COVID to ensure people complied with lockdown. In another exchange, the head of the civil service, Simon Case, suggested the fear-guilt factor was vital to the government's messaging.
And remember the police were arresting women for walking with coffee mugs, coffee cups and that. And the government said, we're independent, the police are independent, they're only enforcing the law. He was urging the police to get heavy with those who broke the lockdown rules whilst he was breaking the lockdown rules and whilst his own Prime Minister, by the way, was having drunken parties in Downing Street breaking the lockdown rules. And they also, he and his senior civil servant mocked people who flew in from outside UK and were forced to quarantine in hotels. And by the way, this is a Conservative government, and Hancock, the Conservative, said it was superb. I just wanted to see some, Case, his senior civil servant, I just wanted to see some of the faces of people coming out of first class and into a Premier Inn shoebox, which is a really bad hotel. And, it
shows the mentality, right?
But also, it's like, if this was a social justice warrior on Twitter,
it would sound the same.
It would sound the same.
Yeah.
So this is class warfare from so-called conservatives, and they want to know if
that was a question, yeah. So Hancock said, how many people did we lock up in hotels yesterday? He asked his assistant. Or Case asked him. And he said none. But 149 chose to enter the country and are now in quarantine hotels due to their own free will. Ha 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 ha. And Case responded, hilarious. So this is how these people were talking to each other. It's a horrible revelation, but we kind of suspected it.
Boris Johnson said it was superb that 2 individuals had been fined £10,000 for coming back to the UK without entering quarantine. This was just weeks before staff at Number 10 Downing Street held a controversial illegal party themselves, violating the government rules.
And I used to really like Boris Johnson. And here's what he says, like, superb, delighted. And then he has a party, like,
yes.
Winegate. Do they call it Winegate, or what do they call it?
The thing, this is both unconservative and it's hypocritical. But the actual reality is, the truth about this is, it shows they don't believe their own propaganda. This was about creating fear. It was about creating this illusion of doing something. It was about politics. But they didn't believe it because they were partying behind the scenes whilst fining you and me £10,000, whilst arresting people, whilst putting people in crap hotels when they flew in and getting a great laugh out of it. So, anyway, let's go over now to the interview I did earlier with Paul Bois, the Breitbart journalist. The movie is called Exemplum. Let's go over that interview I did earlier. Hello, Paul, and welcome to the show. We're here to discuss your movie Exemplum. Very, very interesting. Just to give people background, you're a senior journalist with Breitbart, that wonderful news website, the website also that distributed the My Son Hunter movie, the website that was founded by the late, great Andrew Breitbart, who was a great friend of ours, and the reason we're in Los Angeles. So it's always a pleasure to talk to someone from Breitbart who's carrying the flame of Andrew. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you for having me, Phelim. I appreciate it.
No problem. So, Exemplum, where do I start? it's an award-winning movie. It won the Pasadena International Film Festival Award. First of all, what is an exemplum and why you chose that title?
So basically what an exemplum is, it's from the Middle Ages. It's a morality tale, morality play, if you will. Chaucer is most famous for having done it with The Pardoner's Tale. That was one of the inspirations for this film. And what they would just basically do is they would tell stories, usually about corruption, some kind, or a sin that they were dwelling on, and how it would lead people to damnation or falling apart and everything. So, yeah, that's basically what an exemplum is. It's a medieval morality tale.
Yeah, very interesting. I just recently bought the Canterbury Tales in modern English in a bookshop in Santa Monica, and it's a great read. I mean, for those who don't know the Canterbury Tales, and this is kind of off topic, but it's basically a bunch of pilgrims go on a pilgrimage and pass the time. Every one of them tells their own tale, and their own tale reflects their own weaknesses and foibles and concerns. It's a very, very interesting historical document, and a document about humanity, and a great basis for this story, a great origin for this movie. So it's exemplum. It's about again a religious person, a priest who has failings, has weaknesses, goes over to the dark side. Tell us about what the film. I know you don't want to go into spoilers probably, but what's the film about, and why you chose those themes?
Okay, great. I appreciate you asking me that. So the film is about a Catholic priest. He's a young Catholic priest. He's about 32, 33. He's been ordained for about 5 years. And what he does out of paranoia is he starts recording his confessions. And in those recordings, he becomes obsessed with them, playing them back and forth, formulating psychological profiles about people. And then he becomes inspired to create his own internet show off of that, titled Exemplum. And what he's doing is he's taking his people's confessions and he's formulating these morality tales about that. And it becomes very big on social media, it becomes big on Twitter, on YouTube. He becomes a Catholic media sensation. And through corruption and bureaucracy in the church, all of that gets completely wiped out. His show is canceled, his internet platform is silenced, and he is going to be sent to this dilapidated parish in the middle of nowhere. And he's suffering a crisis of faith in what he's done with his life and where he's gone. And so he decides to take one of those recordings and blackmail a wealthy parishioner with it. And in the process, he gets linked up with a hacker, and it becomes this cat and mouse game. And there's a lot of reflection in there about, I think, and I didn't intend to do this, by the way. This wasn't like I wanted to create this story that highlighted this cultural problem. But I think there is a spiritual meditation in there about cancel culture, about the idea of taking people's sins and using them for power and personal gain, and using them to destroy people. His job is to be healing people, is to be taking people's sins and forgiving them, but he retains them. He keeps them locked in a safe, and they're all there to be used to hurt people in the end.
Very interesting. Funny, what I got from it was I didn't get you're saying he started to record it out of paranoia. I thought he started to record the confessions as part of a media, that he had this plan. I mean, it's a great idea, right? Because people are truly honest in the confessional, and honesty, when you put honesty on the screen or on the page, it pops. So he uses the honesty of the confessional, and for non-Catholics out there, the confessional is where you can go and confess your sins to your priest, and you are completely forgiven. Mm-hmm. And the priest is under a oath. He will lose his priesthood, lose everything if he breaches the confessional. Even courts of law cannot force the priest to breach the confessional. What you've done is you've done a very good portrait of a media priest, of a media evangelical, let's say, of a media religious person, who gets consumed with the media rather than, as you say, consumed with the forgiving of the sins. He's using other people's sins. And you sometimes get that when priests or and I don't want him. And there's a very public priest recently who got into trouble, and the sense is that he was using other people's sins for his advancement. And you can see that with some evangelicals using sin for an advancement rather than healing people and in private. They're using it as a public way of both advancement in terms of media profile, but also in terms of financial gain. Was that what inspired it? Yeah.
Partially the inspiration behind his media blitz. What initially, as it shows in the film, because we tackle a lot of issues in the Catholic Church today. I mean, we're tackling media, personality. We also tackle we address the sexual abuse scandal that you absolutely cannot handle a Catholic film, especially something this dark without addressing it. And what makes him start recording his confessions is he hears a story about a priest who was falsely accused by a nun, and that priest got off because he had a camera in the sacristy. So that's what makes him start recording his confessions in fear that he could be falsely accused one day. So it begins in honest and earnest. I mean, he's violating the seal of confession. And he says flat out in the film is that it was either between excommunication or personal reputation. I chose reputation. So he chooses the way of the world rather than the way of God. So that's there. And then when it comes to his media blitz and using people's sins to become popular, I think that's a very real reflection about what we see today in Catholic media. I would say even in conservative media. I think people see our divide, our pain, our hardships, and to them it's not about fixing things or building a bridge. It's just about using that to become popular and become famous. So that's a very blunt way of putting it, but yeah.
No. Listen, I think if anyone thinks of a lot of popular pastors and priests, they can see that there as well. And I suppose it's what journalists do as well. It's what we do, but we don't have the same. That's what we do. We're out there. We're using, not using people's problems, but we're using the world's problems to tell a story, to highlight things, and that's our job. A priest's job is to heal those wounds, not to expose them. And so I think we get a bye ball. That's what I'm saying anyway, to make myself feel better. I mean, I have another question. It's black and white. Why did you make that decision?
Well, there's a lot of decisions behind that. Some artistic, some practical. It is a film noir film at the end of the day, so it fits the genre, and I do think that the black and white fits with Father Colin Jacoby's perspective on the world and on people. He's a very black and white view, lack of nuance towards people and their sins. And then third, this is a low budget movie. We made it for $9,500. So we're working in, we have no professional production design. Everything that you see on that film is pretty much locations that we just showed up to, did a little tinkering around of some things just to make it cohesive. But that's everything you see there is what it is. So we have no professional production design, no art direction. So by going black and white, everything just fuses together. We don't have to worry too much about colors competing, especially with costumes or anything like that. So it, in many ways, I feel it improves the film and makes it feel a little bit less low budget, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does. It makes it funny enough. When you see something black and white, you think, oh, these people had time and money, as opposed to because very often, you're right. It's nothing worse than a low budget movie with bad coloring. It stands out, and the movies we've made, we always tried, and you can see that with Mice and Hunter, and that was Robert Davi. He banned white lights from the set. None of these white lights that all conservative movies have, that they just lit it with this bright white light. The colors on Mice and Hunter, and the composition, but that we had $2 million of publicly raised money. We had $2 million. You had $10,000, less than $10,000, and you've done an amazing job for that budget. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, well, I get a lot of credit to my cinematographer, Vlad Ionescu. And I think that's one of the benefits of black and white. It just allowed us to just focus on shadows. And he was very good at that. He really wanted to make sure that we got the shadows, especially in the night shots.
Yeah, it matched the noir feel of the movie. It really did.
And if you notice also, what we did, two of my inspirations for the film, obviously, were Pi and Following. I'm a very big fan of the 1990s independent filmmakers. And that was also another reason why I wanted to go black and white. And I really appreciated those films of the 1990s, these filmmakers that really did come from nowhere. This was before the independent film movement was its own racket, and you had film festivals on every corner. Now you have to know people to get into a film festival. These guys came from nowhere. They had nothing. They had $20,000 typically, and they would just make their really interesting films with black and white film cameras. And I wanted to get the feel of that feel that we had nothing, that we came from nowhere, that we owned the corner, and we did not apologize for it. So that's why I added in the 8mm film grains in there. That's why I added in the Gaussian blurs. I drained the whites and I drained the highlights.
Well, I mean, now the independent film festival scene, the indie scene, it's just as the gatekeepers are even worse, I think, than Hollywood, or just as bad as Hollywood. The wokeness is almost worse. Like Sundance, for example, welcomed a movie called Jihad Rehab, which was about jihadis being rehabbed at a center in Saudi Arabia, got access to these jihadis. They spoke. It was a very interesting documentary, very interesting topic, nuanced, and because some activists objected, Sundance pulled a movie from its lineup. I mean, so the independent sector is not indie anymore. It's just mini Hollywood with the same neuroses and the same tendency to censor, the tendency to cancel.
Yeah, I 100% fully agree. The film festival circuit was definitely a hard route, but it's definitely something you have to try at when you're at this level. I learned very quickly that if you want to get into a top level film festival, you have to have connection in with it. I mean, these film festivals, don't even the top level ones like Sundance or Santa Barbara. I mean, most of them don't even look at the films. People that are blindly submitting like I am. They know all the films that are coming out from the major studios or major talents, and they pretty much curate. And people like me are maybe set aside if they find a space for them. But on the positive front, the film festivals that I did apply to that didn't have that kind of racketeering, that were fair, I did very well at. Pasadena International Film Festival was a wonderful film festival to have us, and our film was up against films that had over $200,000 budgets and full crews, and I won Best Director, and I was a wonderful experience to go to that. So there are festivals out there that are fair, that are focused on the work, and they're not out to curate. And so but you have to find them. You have to really work at finding them.
Tell me about the actors. I mean, obviously you're in it, and who are the other actors, and where did you find them?
So obviously, yes, I am the main character. I do play Father Colin Jacoby. That was 100% a budgetary decision. Because we are working 7 weekends. He's in every scene of the film. Unless I had a very close friend who was talented and could do it, there was just no way I was going to get an actor out there for no money that amount of time. So I knew I had to do it, and it just made things easier by having one less schedule to wrangle. So that's why I'm in the film. And then so I got really lucky with my cast. I'm just going to say it. So Joe Griffin, who gives a wonderful performance as Louis Costa. I knew him through my Catholic circuit out here in Pasadena. And he's a retired actor. I mean, he still does do some acting, but he mainly runs his Irish pub, Griffiths of Kinsale in South Pass. And so I knew him, and I reached out to him. This was during COVID, and his bar was actually closed at the time. I said, "Hey, I've written this film. I got this part that you're perfect for. Would you do it?" He read the script, looked at it. He said, "Let's do it." So that was him. He was locked for Louis Costa. And then Francis Cronin is a very interesting story, as how he came on board to play Father Liam. I mean, he gives the stand-up of the film. I mean, no doubt. James Bertinelli said he reminded him of Willem Dafoe. So I met Francis Cronin through my friend Adam Yenser at my comedian friend Yenser, who was a writer for Ellen DeGeneres. He was doing a show at the Scientology Celebrity Center in Hollywood, and I was like, okay, I got to go see what a comedy show is going to be like at the Scientology Center. It's just too much to pass up. So we went, and they take us down to this theater in like a basement, and there's like 5 people there. It was just so weird. So there's 5 people there, and then Adam and this other like former SNL writer does her performance, and then Francis does his performance, and he was a really funny guy, and he mentioned that he was an Irish Catholic, and so him and I connected on that front afterwards, and I got his number. That was like in 2019, and then I just sort of kept in touch with him, briefly throughout the time. Then after I had written the film, I had 2 other people lined up to do it. They couldn't do it, and then I just was like, oh, I'll try Francis, just see if he wants to do it. And reached out to him. He immediately said yes right away, and wow. Great performance.
No, I mean, look, this is another thing, another pet peeve I have with conservative movies is that there's bad acting in them too, and there's no bad acting in this movie, none at all.
Well, thank you for that. And then Lily, Brittany Lewis, that was 100% a casting call. We put that online, Breakdown Services. My friend Rachel Varela, casting director, she orchestrated that. And when you're working at this level, you're gonna maybe get 1 or 2 people out of like 100 people that apply that are going to be right for the part. And she was just perfect. She just nailed it. I saw her on screen instantly. I was like, she's beautiful, but she has a haunting beauty to her. And couldn't have asked for a better person to play.
And there's a twist, and she has a twist in the tail, but I won't tell people what that is with that character. So, how can people get access? Well, actually, you talked about it earlier. You said you can't really make a movie about a priest without addressing the sexual abuse scandal. Was there any concern that you're that this is about a corrupt priest? And corruption, and even his bishop is corrupt. There is one good priest in it. Was there any? Were you concerned at all about this? Oh, this is just another anti-Catholic priest movie, or is there another story that the movie is telling, in your opinion?
Yeah, I'm sure that people will initially may want to come away with that or look at that on the surface. I certainly don't see so. I mean, I'm a very committed Catholic, and I love the church, and everybody who worked on this, for the most part, was a committed Catholic who loves the church. I just think that if we're going to be talking about issues, you have to talk about them and deal with them honestly. And there's just no doubt there are corrupt people in the church. There are corrupt bishops, there are corrupt priests, but there are also good priests, there are good Catholics. And at the end of the day, I think the film is also kind of a reflection about is it worthy? Is it good to just be so consumed with that, to become so jaded by that? A lot of Colin's downfall is he can't come to accept that his bishop is a bad man and he is corrupt, and there are bad people that get into power. There's that wonderful monologue that Father Liam gives to him about. He quotes Solzhenitsyn. He says, the heart, the evil runs through every man, and who is willing to destroy, a piece of his own heart.
Say that again. You dropped out there. It's worth repeating. It's kind of the theme of the movie. Actually, say that again. The quote.
Father Liam, during Colin's crisis, he quotes Solzhenitsyn, and he says to him, the evil runs through the heart of every man, and who is willing to destroy a piece of his own heart. I think some of us get into this mentality that one day we're just going to find all the evil people out there, and people who are in power. I don't care if they're liberal or conservative. We're just going to we're going to put them all in a room, and we're going to lock them all away, and everything's going to be all hunky dory again. And that's just not the truth. Evil is in my heart. Evil is in your heart. Evil is in everyone's heart. And if you become too self-righteous about it, you'll destroy yourself. You'll become hateful in the end, like what Colin becomes.
Yes. And again, I think that's the fault. That's the weakness of a lot of media priests and a lot of media pastors. definitely that the self-righteousness. I mean, I don't know what is it self-righteousness, but they don't recognize that if man is flawed, then they are flawed. So on that cheery note, I think we should end the interview. Tell people the name of the movie is Exemplum. Tell people where they can get it. It's going to be released tomorrow, Thursday. Tell people how they can access it.
Exemplum will be going live on Thursday on Vimeo, TVOD. It will be available rental price of $1.99, so less than the price of a cup of coffee, or you can purchase it for $9.99. We will be going live on other platforms, eventually Tubi and YouTube. Indie Rights has its own YouTube channel, so we'll be eventually available for free, but this is our first platform that we're launching.
When you say Vimeo, just for people who don't know, Vimeo is just key in vimeo.com on the internet and you'll get the Vimeo, and then look for Exemplum. How do they access it?
Yeah, you can go to our Instagram. You can see the link on our Instagram. I'm happy to send you all the link, and you can share it with people. You can, if you go to Vimeo, you type in Exemplum, you'll be able to find it.
EXEMPLUM, Exemplum. Definitely worth watching. A great movie. Paul, thank you so much for coming on, and talk to you soon.
Thank you, Phelan. Have a lovely day.
Bye. It's great. So yeah, go to Vimeo. The movie, as I said, is Exemplum, EXEMPLUM. Good to help conservative filmmakers out. It's important that we do that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, look at this article in the New Yorker.
I love the New Yorker. Yeah, they write these
9
million words. Yeah,
and the headline is "The End of the English Major." Enrollment in the humanities is in free fall at colleges around the country. What happened? Well, according to them, everything happened except what really happened. Right?
Right.
Yes, so everyone's interested in
One
AI.
One of those stories that writes 9 million words and they completely miss the story.
Yeah, everyone's interested in AI. Everyone is interested in statistics.
Was it AI that ended it?
Yes. But everyone's interested in studying those. That's what the cool people are, the data and all that. And it's like, no, when UCLA announced, was it 10 years ago, that you could now study English at UCLA without ever having studied Shakespeare. When you attack the canon as something written by dead white men, mm-hmm. when you trash everything written before 20 years ago,
yeah.
What do you think? Do you think people are going to suddenly learn to love English, learn to love history, learn to love the humanities when everything lesson that's not 10 years old, it's not 5 years old, that doesn't have a transgender in it? You think that people are going to go, oh, I want to be part of that? Like, the professors hate the thing they're teaching.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, how on earth is some 18-year-old going to go? I mean, how are they going to be inspired by a professor who hates what they teach? And if they don't hate it also, they'll get a fail. So that's the end of the English major. That's the end of humanities. I wonder, is the English major ending at Hillsdale, at a conservative college? That's a good question. Mm-hmm. I wonder is enrollment at Hillsdale in the humanities, is it on the up or is it on the down? I know someone I can ask.
Yes, you do.
And I'm going to ask her, and that'll be a very, very interesting. I mean, Molly Hemingway, for example, teaches journalism at Hillsdale.
Yes.
I want to go and learn journalism.
Yes, from Molly Hemingway.
From Molly Hemingway. Yeah. Someone who loves journalism, who understands journalism, who practices journalism, who lives, eats and breathes journalism. Mm-hmm. So if you don't want to stop the end of humanities, appoint people who love the humanities.
Yeah.
And who love Western civilization and who love the canon. So Patrisse Cullors, the former head of the Black Lives Matter movement, gave her brother and her boyfriend, the father of her child, almost $2 million of
charitable money.
Of charitable money. And this is not even bringing in all the houses they bought and all the other expenditures. And no one has ever asked her that question about why she gave them this money. Is she sorry? Will she apologize? And she has never had to answer these questions. So she was speaking at an event at the Broad Museum, and I went and I asked her those difficult questions, and she did not like it. Let's watch what happened.
Ms. Cullors, I wanted to ask you, do you think it's appropriate that you give your boyfriend almost $1 million of BLM money? You not think it's inappropriate, unethical to give $1 million and 840,000 to your brother? Would you be prepared to answer the question? Do you think it's appropriate? Do you think it's appropriate? Do you think it's appropriate? Why won't you answer the question? Why won't you answer the question? Why won't you answer the question? Why won't you answer the question?
I'm being harassed right now, you guys.
Why won't you answer the question?
I'm being harassed.
You gave
right
$1 million
now.
of charitable money. Don't keep your hands off me. Keep your hands off me. You give $1 million of charitable money. You give us $1 million of charitable money.
Sir, you gotta leave. Sir, you gotta leave.
They said you can ask questions. I'm asking questions.
Come on, you gotta go, sir.
I'm asking questions.
No, we're asking you to leave.
You're asking me to leave.
We've asked you 3
Okay.
times to leave.
Stop.
Kieran, I'm leaving now.
Okay, let's go.
So much for transparency, so much for openness. I mean, they demand transparency and openness of the police force. They demand transparency and openness of the government, but they will not answer
Simple questions. So, Patrice Cullors, please answer why you gave your brother and your boyfriend $2 million. We know why you did. Will you apologize? Will they give the money back? These are simple questions. And these are very important questions because money that is collected charitably, I mean, there's money that being collected charitably for cancer research, for all kinds of really serious things about alleviating poverty, alleviating starvation in certain places. And, when you lose confidence in the reliability of charitably donated money, it affects all charities. She has a duty to respond to any questions about how money was spent by BLM, who, as we now know, raised $90 million in one particular year. And very big questions need to be answered. And obviously you've seen how Patrice Cullors reacts when she's asked the simplest of questions.
So we're waiting for those answers, Patrice. Thank you. What else?
Okay, and is this the world's worst, wokest trailer? Go on, Phil. You were going to say.
People wonder why they can't go to movies. We can't actually show the full trailer because if we show large parts of trailers or anything like that, YouTube uses that as an excuse to shut us down, as they did a couple of weeks ago. If you notice, our YouTube videos get tens of thousands of views, and then when we do anything, about trans or
about COVID,
suddenly they just choke us. So I just thought we'd play this little
tiny bit of this trailer.
So let's play that little bit.
It's like he found me. Peter Pan?
Were you expecting someone else?
Are you...
Lost Boys.
Every last one of us. But you're not all boys. So?
Look, it's in the title.
Yeah.
It's called Lost Boys. They're the Lost Boys, right? And the whole thing with the Lost Boys and Peter Pan, I'm not a big Peter Pan expert. I kind of missed that out of my childhood. I don't know why. But they're lost boys, right? And they'd never seen a girl before. And suddenly you go to the Lost Boys, and of course they're all diverse, but they're also, Lost Boys are also girls. And it's like, well, that kind of ruins the whole weird vibe of Lost Boys.
So what's very interesting is that this trailer is up on YouTube on the official site of who produced this. Was it Disney? And it's on their official site, but the comments have been turned off.
No way.
Yeah, no, the comments have been turned off. So it's quite interesting because I saw Phil, you'd written in your show notes there that you should really read the comments, and I thought, yeah, well, that's interesting because they've officially turned the comments off, and I pressed on all the buttons to find out why would YouTube do that, and I just love what they have here, Phil. Why might YouTube, this is on YouTube's own, when you go down the rabbit hole, this is what you find. Why might YouTube turn off comments? I love this. Comments on some videos may be turned off by YouTube for safety reasons. Safety. Whoa. Wow. For safety reasons, yeah. Like to protect minors or for other safety violations. We know that comments are important to creators and viewers alike, but we also take the safety of minors and other vulnerable groups seriously. Sometimes we may turn off comments on content, even if that content doesn't violate our guidelines. So that's this case, right? We do this to protect vulnerable creators our audience.
So Disney
our
is-
audience. So the vulnerable creators.
It's Disney.
So, vulnerable Disney, boo. We're not going to be criticised. We will not be criticised, so we're turning off the comments. So this is what they did. And it's so funny that you had said it.
Can you still read the comments?
No, 100% not. No, you can't read any of the comments. When you attack something like a much loved story like Peter Pan, a much loved story for generations upon generations, just don't go there. Why don't you create your own thing? Why don't you come up with your own story? Why destroy something that was perfect?
Yes.
Something that was loved for generations.
Yes.
And what's happened, I imagine, is that grandparents and parents who loved that story for generations have suddenly discovered, and they're like, oh, Peter Pan's coming to the theatre. They watch the trailer and they're like, what? Is there anything sacred anymore? Is anywhere safe anymore?
It's a boring thriller as well, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a boring thriller, And they wonder why people don't go to the movies anymore. And on that note, why don't they go to the movies anymore? And then you can look at this trailer, which again, how to blow up a pipeline.
How to blow up a
And it's about
pipeline.
a bunch of young people who are blowing up an oil pipeline. And it's like, okay.
We have to show how vulnerable the oil industry is by hitting something big.
Michael, what do you think the odds are we blow ourselves up?
I was kind of amazed, so they're making a movie, ostensibly to celebrate, these environmentalists who are going to blow up a pipeline.
Yes.
It's just, and by the way, the kind of awful part about this is that environmentalists do blow up pipelines.
Yes, they'd love to blow up
and do
pipelines.
try to destroy infrastructure around fossil fuels. So-
Maybe the movie will make them out to be baddies, but it certainly doesn't look like that from the trailer. But this is, again, and by the way, there's no industry, well, there's probably industries on the planet, but there's very few industries on this planet that use more carbon products or whatever you call them.
Yeah, we've been on set.
Solid fuel.
We've been on set.
I was going to say, we were in a house last night. By the way, we were in a house last night and we asked, is that fire a solid fuel fire? And it was like we were speaking Swahili.
I think it's not what Americans say. They don't say solid fuel. They say
wood burning.
They said wood burning. Now, you see, we were explaining then to these friends that basically in Ireland we have this thing. Well, we used to have this thing called coal. We don't have much coal now anymore,
Yes.
but coal is actually a great solid fuel. But solid fuel, yes. Well, that was an interesting one because in Ireland, we have in a fireplace you could put coal, you could put peat briquettes. So that's bog that's been consolidated, concentrated, and burns quite well, and then just wood itself.
Wood chip, the whole thing.
Wood burns too quickly.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
So there's no industry in the world. There is, but it's one of the most energy-consuming industries. I mean, like the lights and travel.
Like we did. So when we did Gosnell, for example, I'm just thinking. I mean, the same thing when we did the Mice on Hunter.
Yes.
But I'm just thinking of Gosnell, and a small budget film. What was it? About $3 million. But I just remember the first day on the set just being, it was my first day on a set ever, and it was our set for the first time, and it was really exciting. But basically, to come across all these massive, massive trucks that are running diesel engines, and have them on permanently, because you got one of them with full with like a hairdressing situation, another place where people were putting on costumes and stuff and makeup and all that. And it's very industrial, and that was a tiny movie, so you can imagine when you multiply that by 10 and by 100. How much, like for example, the Disney film, like the Peter Pan movie, how much money, how much energy was spent there, how much fossil fuels was used there. They're not in a position really to be throwing any kind of fossil fuels or solid fuel at any one film. Did you get that? Boom, boom. Did you see that? Look at me with the humour. Moving on.
Speaking of crazy California.
Speaking of crazy California, as you know, like look at us. We're dressed like we're living in the mountains.
Yes.
And by the way, can I just say, thank God we're not living in the mountains, because the news is very, very bleak, very difficult. And we've seen, like, there was one family that's been featured a lot on the news. It's a husband and wife, and they've got a new baby. They went up to the mountains like about 2 weeks ago, just for a weekend away kind of thing, and have been trapped up there since and running out of food. And it's, just extraordinary. And into the midst
And
of
there's no
that,
heat as well. They're putting their baby in sock.
well, they had to move. I think that couple actually, the couple with their baby, they were in an Airbnb, and obviously not obviously, but a lot of electricity has been cut off to a lot of these places, and gas, and so they had to move to another Airbnb. And I mean, they're very cheerful and fine when you see them. But the husband was sort of saying, that the local. And we saw that on the news as well. The local supermarket, the roof caved in because of the weight of the snow. So this is extraordinary times. So what do you expect the governor, our leader, our fearless leader, to do in this circumstance? And basically he went, as we were saying earlier, he didn't just go Ted Cruz. He went full Ted Cruz, and then he actually surpassed Ted Cruz. We'll remember that Ted Cruz, here's a picture of poor Ted Cruz now, caught at the airport down in, where does he live now? Where does he live now? Where does he live? In Houston. So basically Ted Cruz decided when the awful weather happened, when the blackout happened in Texas, that, you know what, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I've got the means to get out of here, so I'm out of here.
I'm going to
and
the
off he went
Ritz-Carlton.
to the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun, which Phil and I have stayed in, by the way. And, you know, it's great and lovely and everything like that. But no, you really want, if you're going to go Ted Cruz, or you want to abandon the people that you were elected to protect and care for. This is, by the way, just remembering with Gavin Newsom, literally, like he literally had just announced a state of emergency for parts of Southern California, for many parts of California in general.
Of the weather.
So what does he decide to do? I'm out of here. So he gets out of here and goes to Baja California, what they call Baja California, which is basically Mexico, which is part, Mexico. It's not at all California. It's just that part of the I suppose, peninsula that extends down into Mexico. And we don't know where he went. We do know that he went to Baja California, as they call it, which does contain a town called Cabo San Lucas, which is very, very pleasant. And we do know that in the past, this same Gavin Newsom has gone to Baja California, to Cabo, and stayed at a delightful little place there, a delightful compound. And we're going to show you lots and lots of photographs of this delightful compound, because I have to say, as you probably know, if you watch this show faithfully, property porn is something that's very important to Phil and I.
Yes.
So he, in the past, and by the way, when I say in the past, I mean in the middle of California's massive lockdown during COVID, he went to Cabo San Lucas and stayed in the delightful dacha, what's called the Dacia Cabo Dacia. 20, and just for you and me, and those of you ready to just, get on Airbnb and book this place, $29,000 a night to you and me.
Yes.
$29,000. But by the way, when it's not during a holiday, which he obviously got a lockdown price, I think it's $24,000. All the rest of it.
To be fair.
But look at the lovely photographs. Isn't that a gorgeous place? And I just think Gavin Newsom, you see, I think there's something weird about him. I don't know if he's a real person at all. I think he might be AI generated. Look at the photographs of him. There's something just not right about that fella now. But anyway, yes. During COVID, during Thanksgiving, he went to Cabo and stayed at this gorgeous place for $29,000. Can I just say that again? And it's owned, by the way, by a delightful Russian oligarch.
A Russian oligarch.
Who basically had previously denounced his citizenship to avoid... He had arrived in the American embassy, I think, in Moscow, and you can do that apparently, and denounced his Russian citizenship and avoided an enormous amount of tax that he was liable to pay. But yeah, that's where the fearless Gavin Newsom, went to Cabo. We're suggesting that's probably where he went.
I have to say, I've been to Cabo recently for the first time. It's very, very nice.
Very, very nice.
It's no Cancun.
And the reason we have a lovely friend, who we mentioned to you before, who rescues dogs and has moved and has retired to the Cabo region. And we're just blessed, actually, to know that she's there, because we can go there.
What does he get for his $24,000?
I had to do this. I just had to do this because, as I said, this kind of thing does actually, I think we all actually do enjoy these kind of things. Because you say to yourself, right, $29,000 a night, you're thinking, like, what would you get for that? Well, let me tell you what you get for that. You get 24-hour concierge, on-site property manager. You get 3 gourmet, 3, not
By the
one,
way,
not
so
one,
the
not 2.
24-hour concierge is different from the on-site property manager.
Correct.
Yeah.
And not just one, not 2, but 3 gourmet chefs. Chefs and waiters will be at the house from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Wow.
6 butlers. Service from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Extra hours available for an additional $200 an hour. 6 housekeepers. 6 housekeepers. 2 private drivers. 2 private drivers, chauffeurs with transportation anywhere in Cabo, etc., whatever. 2 private security guards. Wow. Masseuse, available full-time. Treatments are an additional fee. Oh, no, I think that's really a little bit mean. Personal trainer available. All La Dacia staff hours are scheduled by you, the guest. If you would like staff members to be there 24 hours a day, this can be arranged for an additional charge. And the house itself...
It's cheap at half the price.
Cheap at half. Again, looking at the photographs here, the property features 10 bedrooms with ensuite bathrooms, HGTVs, whatever. 6 of the 8 bedrooms have ocean views. Industrial kitchen and all that. 10 bedrooms, you know what I mean. And what else? 2 wine cellars, because one would not be enough. There are 2 wine cellars with over 1,500 bottles. 1 for reds and 1 for white whites. Oh, that's a great idea. One wine cellar just for the reds and one for the whites.
Yes, of course.
The rental allows access to the wine collection, and consumption is priced per bottle. Or you'd still get charged for the bottles.
So is it done on an honesty? Because we used to have an Airbnb and we had an honesty bar. And people
it didn't
weren't
work
very
out
honest.
at all. Well, you see, the thing is with the Irish, you see, that wouldn't work out at all.
Was the American with the honesty bar?
No, oh, maybe you're right. Did we have it? Oh, yeah, maybe we did. State of the art techno gym. So I don't know what a techno gym is, but I'm sure it's great. Equipment with huge ocean views. There's a spa and sauna. There's 2 elevators. There's a theatre room, AC, Wi-Fi. There's a washer dryer. Like you'd go to a $29,000 a night place and be doing your own washing. Right. There's a hot tub, a fire pit, pool lounge chairs. You'd expect that anyway, right?
Yes.
Outdoor dining, whatever. Anyway.
I like that bit there now.
What do you like?
2-car garage with Cadillac Escalade and Mercedes Sprinter van.
Oh, you get them thrown in.
And
all
the
our
chauffeurs.
Rentals include a personal concierge. This whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
it's just wonderful.
I just love it. But that's what he did. So yeah.
So just to give you context, so places like I was up skiing in Wrightwood just before this recent snowstorm. The next day, 7 foot.
Oh yeah.
Snowed in Wrightwood. So people are literally their houses and. There's places in Mammoth, 54 feet of snow, right? And you people in Colorado and all those places, you might be used to this, but nobody, I mean, to be fair, we're just not catered for this because for the last 20 years, we've been told that there's going to be no more snow because of climate change, because of global warming.
Correct.
So why would you buy snowplows? Why would you buy helicopters? Why would you have people prep for being snowed in when there's never going to be snow again? So, and you know, they're still continuing with this science because they're still saying even with that much water in this, and we're getting rain as opposed to snow, a bit of hail as well. I mean, you look out there at the Hollywood sign, right? There's snow behind the Hollywood sign.
It's a first.
On the mountain. It's a first.
I think it's a first.
And we're witnessing that. And they still won't tell us the drought is over.
Officially over, because of course there's no actual official definition of a drought, which is very handy, by the way, if you want to threaten people and scare people with about drought. Yeah. But you know the thing I was going to say that I think is I think the big point about this that should be mentioned, you know, people have died, so bodies have been found, and just reading today, I think it was in the LA Times, they're expecting to find more bodies because of the fact that people are snowed in, that the snow is up. It's up so high that it completely covers the first floor of many homes, and in some cases up to the second floor. So, you know, there will be terrible news. And, you know, some of you probably don't know this, but Julian Sands, the actor from, I think he was in Room with a View, of course. Yes. Yeah, Julian Sand, who was in that, has been missing basically now since just shortly after Christmas, who went walking in the mountains. And I mean, he's now snowed under, like majorly snowed under. But in the midst of all of this, I think the big point is we were told by the people who know everything, the experts on climate, the people who are saying that trillions and trillions of dollars have to be spent to avoid whatever. Those people, and they're saying because the climate is doing whatever, and the climate's going to do this, and the climate's going to do this in 5 years and in 10 years and in 20 years. They couldn't even predict this happening.
No.
People have died as a result. There's no equipment up there in those mountains to clear this snow, which, as you say, Phil, in Colorado, they'd have all the stuff there because of the snow that they've had. But the reason that they're so ill-equipped here is because these awful people who have, you know, put themselves out there and said that they know exactly what's going to happen, so the trillions of dollars should be spent on mitigation, really haven't got a clue. And that's who's in charge of the asylum here. Yes. And it's frightening. And we are cold, and on a lower level of importance. We're like, look at the way we're dressed. This is Southern California.
Yes, and the Oscars are coming up.
And actually,
we didn't talk about that. I mean, at the weekend we went to see Everything Everywhere All at Once.
We did.
It does not look good. What's happening?
Evelyn, I'm not your husband. I'm another version of him from another universe. I'm here because we need your help.
Very busy today. No time to help you.
Across the multiverse, I've seen thousands of Evelyns. You can access all of their memories, their emotions, even the skills. is a great evil spreading throughout the many verses. And you may be our only chance of stopping it.
Don't make me fight you. I am really good.
I don't believe you.
Wow, that looks really good.
And it's going to win everything.
It's going to win everything. And I have to say, with almost no exception, I think the film is perfect. I have to say, of course, the LGBTQ comes into it, of course, because they have to have that. But but barring that, it is actually an extraordinary film.
Yes.
It is really extraordinary, extremely imaginative. Kind of,
It's
blow your socks off.
inexplicable. So
Amazing.
watch it with the volume up and the curtains drawn, and you'll love it. It's going to win everything. I mean, we're going to try and see most of. We went to see Cocaine Bear at
which is not nominated for an Oscar, just so you know.
And I can't explain to you what Everything Everywhere All at Once is about. I saw on TikTok or somewhere like that, somebody said, here's what one thing about Cocaine Bear is you don't need anyone to explain to you what it's about or what the ending means or what the movie meant. If you know the word cocaine and what it means, and if you know the word bear and what it means, that's all you need to know when you go and watch this movie. It's a bit gory. It's very gory, so it's not for everyone, but it's a lot of fun.
Yes.
But I will say, Everything Everywhere All at Once, we had seen The Banshees of Inisherin.
Which
we thought it was
is amazing.
It's a great movie, but when you just look at the acting and the movie of like Everything Everywhere All at Once, you realise these guys are in the hippity place. Brendan Gleeson hanging around with his friend. It's just not at the same level, and I still believe that the problem is Martin McDonagh got so burned with 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, and redeeming a racist, which he's never been forgiven about. And he said publicly in an interview, I will never touch race again in a movie. So there are things he will not touch in his movies because they're too sensitive. And once you tell an artist that, then it all suffers because they're writing looking over their shoulder. The people who made Everything Everywhere All at Once, nobody was looking over their shoulder. I don't know who was in their brain, but it's an amazing piece of art and well worth seeing. And if you want to watch the Oscars and appreciate what's going on, watch Everything Everywhere All at Once because it's going to win everything. And if you haven't watched it, you'll not be part of the party.
Yeah, I think you have to watch it so if you're going to watch the Oscars, you definitely need to, because it's going to win everything.
Okay, kids.
All right, thanks. That's it for this week. We will see you next week. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.